Welcome y'all, it's time to get weird. You see, some alt history mods in Hoi 4 try to make somewhat realistic scenarios based on plausible divergences in our timeline, but sometimes that's just really boring. Sometimes you want something where there isn't much logic as to why things are the way they are, and you can just have your wild fantasies come true. Enter Kaiserredux, who takes the setting of Kaiserreich and adds more content to it. And while that content isn't as realistic, it can be pretty fun and of course not balanced at all. So today we're playing a hidden nation in the mod called the Black Belt Republic that can be spawned during the Second American Civil War. It contains a lot of crazy focuses and the focus tree that can be done, but these ones in particular drew me in the most, so we're gonna do this one today. So if you guys like seeing crazy mods for Hoi 4 with schizo focus trees and want to see more of it, remember to hit the like button and subscribe to see more content like this. So first, we have to start as the USA, which in the Kaiserredux mod is somehow in a worse place than they are in the Kaiserreich mod. Our economy is terrible, our political system even worse, and we got far left and far right extremists making things awful for everyone. We're not even done taking L's yet. Already in the first month, another once-in-a-lifetime financial crisis happens, making the USA even worse to live in. Surprisingly, this causes American politicians to scramble to do something to try to help people, but to keep this playthrough a little historically plausible, I made sure the bill fails, which greatly angers everyone. There was a very important election coming up in 1936. And the American people were just too divided on who to choose. So MacArthur had to make a choice to run the country, and he chose himself. So for some strange reason, people were not happy with MacArthur leading the country, and America is tearing herself apart. Unfortunately, to get to the good part, for a bit we have to play as the revolting Dixiecrat factions. And by the end of November, America was looking very different from how it entered the month. So to get the Black Belt Republic to spawn, we have to get the people really angry in the area. How do we do that? Well, we gotta be really racist, even for the 1930s. But how do we do that? It's simple. We elect 1930s versions of TNO players to run the country. And upon hearing that the state is being run by people who play Hoi 4, a resistance starts to form. Then, with a few more aggressive laws, the Black Belt has decided they had enough and rises up. Finally, I get to leave this dump behind and get to play the real content. So I had to set up our army, and I saw no better man to lead our troops than Jackie Robinson. I mean, who better to lead our army than an 18-year-old with absolutely no combat experience? But our problems were not only with the CAR, but also the angry Southerners making a big fuss over who was now in charge in this area. At least the CAR army was hardly ready to fight me, and we were quickly able to surround and secure the vital city of Atlanta. The next step was electing a government for our country. We had already pushed away a lot of the super radical groups in the country because I only wanted sane leadership in the country. I decided to stay with the Socialist Party, but apparently that made us too liberal for the Third International because they just pulled out their volunteers to me. But if the commies don't got my back, at least Japan is there for me. Just goes to show who really cares about freedom in this world. United in this fight, we took out the CAR, and I got most of the land I wanted from them. So, we had successfully won our freedom from our oppressors and can pursue our own destiny. But a man came. A man going by the name of Sun Ra was opening our eyes about how much more we could be. Although we shut out most of the radicals from the government, they were gathering behind this man. I mean, how could we not listen to such a visionary? He was telling us how we shouldn't be content in our little corner of Earth. We should be expanding to unite the people and striving to go beyond this world. His charisma was undeniable, and when he marched with his supporters to the capital, we were helpless to say no to him, and we let Sun Ra take over the country to lead us to a better future. The first step in our Pan-African dream was uniting with our brothers across the pond in Liberia. They of course accepted this, and we had our first foothold in Africa. and we even got our first ship for our brand new navy. While we were working on core in Liberia, we also planned our invasion of Cuba to secure our backyard. And since they helped us out, we joined the Japanese faction in solidarity with their anti-imperialist message. Together, we could help decolonize the world from European oppression. So to continue our decolonization, we had to secure the Caribbean to make sure they were not going to be taken advantage by any of the real imperialist powers in the world. I mean, if they really hated us so much, they would have fought harder against me, right? Same with Haiti. We quickly moved in and secured the island, and successfully protected it from imperialism. Meanwhile, the West Indies Federation was in a war for its survival from the Entente, and I had to move quickly to secure them before they fell to those evil imperialists. Once I get rid of the people who didn't like me in Jamaica, I was greeted with open arms. And the Bahamas was the same story. I mean, people might think I'm just conquering these territories just like any evil imperialist nation would, but I have a pretty simple response to that. I don't agree. Soon, Sun Ra reveals the truth of who he really is. He was not just any one of us mere humans. He was an alien sent to Earth to save and protect the people here and bring them home to Saturn. Sun Ra had been warned about the upcoming American Civil War by his alien brethren, which allowed him to prepare himself to be able to spread this message today. With the truth revealed, he also declared that the nation would now be known as the Cosmic Realm of Aru. As a new nation, we needed a new flag, but unfortunately, Sun Ra had that covered with this excellent flag. We also needed to develop a new capital, and upon consideration we decided that Memphis would do better, as we could rebuild the city in our image, and we can make a grand new pyramid that would make the whole world jealous. With the whole world descending into chaos with the Second Weltkrieg, I can feel an opportunity to expand rapidly approach me. And I was right. Japan, seeing Germany being distracted, saw a chance to pounce upon them, and of course I had to join to liberate my brothers in Africa from their oppressors. The Europeans think they're so smart, but let's see how good these so-called smart people do when they get bombed by 400 tactical bombers. This was only the first step. While the troops were fighting the war, Sun Ra was making music to fund our space program. Both were going well. While our troops were liberating Nigeria, Sun Ra was swaying the world to better understand that he truly was an alien from Saturn. Now I understand that some people may be concerned about the Afrocentric messaging of Sun Ra's ideology, but rest assured, we are open to all people. I mean, technically, we are all Africans. And as we liberated more and more of Africa, Sun Ra felt confident to announce that he was the one true prophet and would be the shepherd of humanity as he assumed direct control of every aspect of the nation. And only Sun Ra could lead the people to the true homeland of Saturn. We gathered the volunteers for our first launch to outer space, and after much preparation and money spent, it just blew up in our face. We clearly were not ready to go to space for a while, but we could at least focus on winning this war. At least the war was going very well for us. We were pushing through the Congo, so what could go wrong for us? Well, Japan forcing us out of the war. While we were doing well in Africa, the Japanese were getting absolutely rolled, and I was forced to give up everything I fought for. Now, obviously, Sun Ra's story couldn't end here, so using his divine power, he was able to travel back in time and inform his past self that he should leave the Japanese. And fortunately, Sun Ra doesn't have to play by the same rules as other people and dump the losers so we could continue winning. But there was a problem. We started losing now. You see, apparently, 24 divisions can't hold this entire front. So the AI just ran through all the holes in my front line, and more of the Kaiser and his goon squad were showing up to kick me out of my home. And it was hard to let go of everything I fought for, but my army in the Congo was facing a disaster, and was desperately falling back to preserve itself. I tried to save all I could, but by the end of the retreat, I was only left with a quarter of the army I marched in with. Also, the Germans had reconquered all of the land I liberated in the north and pushed all the way to Nigeria. You see, it's incredible what moves you can do in this game when you actually have enough units for the front line. We can restart our liberation of Africa, destroying the occupying armies one by one. And we get the great news that we finally defeated racism in our country. But despite us doing so well against the Germans in Africa, the Third Internationale was nearing death, so I knew I was running out of time before even more Germans would just be thrown at me. For the time being, at least, it seemed the Germans kind of forgot about me in Africa since there were barely any units in it now, and they were focusing on fronts closer to home since the Third Internationale was about to die, and the Russians slowly pushed them back on the Eastern Front. After 3 years of fighting, I kinda lost track of how much the AI spent trying to stop me here. I mean, imagine being the Kaiser and having to explain to the German people that while fighting in a two-front war in Europe versus France, Britain, and Russia, you lost 500,000 men to a nation called the Cosmic Realm of Aru in Africa. I feel like there would be revolutions brewing at that point. I mean, it says a lot about what these leaders prioritize. They could be focusing on winning the war in their backyard, but instead they sentence thousands of young men to die just to keep Sun Ra's truth suppressed. Despite my best efforts to carry this war, the Third Internationale did collapse, and I could sense the pressure about to be built up on me with them gone. But that pressure building up just caused my game to explode, because my game crashed, and when I loaded the autosave, I had to reassign all my generals and technology, along with world tension just being 0 now. So even though all the major countries in the world are fighting right now, this is actually just the new peaceful state of the world. I also figured, since it was 1942, maybe it was about time I actually make a tank. Because I get a feeling that once the American Civil War is over, things won't be so easy for me back home. By the end of the year, I controlled almost all of German Africa. The only thing left was South Africa, and if I could focus on them, they wouldn't stand much of a chance. As we were marching through South Africa, we received the bad news that while the PSA had defeated the Syndicalist Americans, they were now declaring victory in the American Civil War, which meant only one thing for us. So now we were in a fight to decide the whole future of America, and of course, Russia was involved in this. Well, the line was fortunately pretty static, and it bought enough time for me to deploy new tank divisions. I was gonna make an offensive against the PSA, but with so much foreign intel in this country that people know what Sun Ra had for breakfast this morning, I can't even get a planning bonus. Whatever, no plans, no problem. We were able to break through their lines and spread all over the Midwest. And we weren't the only ones making moves in America, since apparently they were at war with Germany and they invaded them and they lost New England. God, the spies in this mod are so cursed. We have fascist Adam Driver, the game director of Victoria 3, a jazz musician, and a Hitler-loving rapper. You know, I think I'll just stick with the seemingly most well-adjusted man here. Despite my troops being half-starved when pushing into southern Africa, we do manage to capitulate the country, just leaving a few Germans to mop up in Africa. Meanwhile in America, I could just drift around the Pacific States Army with my tanks, cause they're so powerful around the Great Plains. Then I could just drift them south and run through Texas like there's nothing to stop me. It just feels so satisfying getting all these pockets, and it feels like the PSA doesn't even have their whole army here. I bet the AI sent away a bunch of their troops to Russia and are regretting it now because they're collapsing at home because of that. Still, America is a very big country, so it's gonna take a while for me to cap them. Now, if only there was a way to shorten a war by making the other side surrender faster. Future generations may question why we did such a horrible act when the PSA was losing and we're gonna surrender soon, and the answer is simple. We couldn't be bothered to walk that far. Our job still wasn't done. To redeem Africa, we needed to control the Portuguese colonies, and they were in the Entente, so that made them our next target. I prepared to attack the Entente, and once I declared the war, we easily marched across their borders into Portugal, France, Canada, and Mexico. With the guidance of Sun Ra, we overran any possible defenses they tried to put up to stop our righteous journey. and soon we began our redemption of humanity's cradle in Africa. Once we finish that focus, we just get to sit tight and enjoy being overpowered. The focus gives me cores on all of Africa, so I instantly get 11 million manpower, and with those cores, plus controlling the US, I am sitting on all the men, factories, and resources I could ever need. While I'm pushing up into North Africa, I capture an airport, which finally gives me an opportunity I've been waiting for a long time. While Sun Ra believes that all of humanity should be able to go back to Saturn someday, I believe the Germans deserve to be sent to the Sun instead. The Entente collapses shortly afterward, and I get to have some okay borders with the peace deal, and at this point, I can't be bothered finishing the fight against the other factions. Fighting in Africa for 4 years really strains your willingness to want to play this video game, so I'm just done here. Hope you guys did enjoy watching this playthrough. It can be pretty fun to play these more ridiculous focus trees that make you super OP from time to time, so leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great rest of your day, and hope to see you again next time.